Welcome everyone to Northwest Kansas. Taking a little time today to look at a couple of fields and start looking and doing some evaluations on pre-emerge weed control. As we know, what we're starting to see a lot more coming back into the fold with pre-emerge chemistries to try to take some reliance off of our complete post programs. And as we continue to look at deciding on the weed species and what we're trying to do, we know that pre-emerge chemistries need some special attention, and they also need a little help from Mother Nature. There's a lot of things that can interfere with that pre-emerge chemistry when we're making those applications. And a couple of things that go along with that, you can probably see in the background. Number one, we've got a lot of residue in fields that we're doing no-till work in. In a lot of areas in the countryside, we're still doing tillage and putting those pre-emerge down. But in those no-till situations, we're struggling to make sure that we get good coverage for our pre-emerge materials. Another thing too is, as we know in Northwest Kansas, and up and down the Central Plains and many parts of the U.S., rainfall is a big piece of that as well. So we need to make sure we have a good rainfall event or an irrigation event, if you're lucky enough to have irrigation, to make sure that we're activating the pre-emerge chemistries. So there's a couple of pieces there that we need to make sure we're trying to manage as well as we can with our pre-emerge piece to give us the best efficacy to control our weed species. Again, we're trying to make sure that we're taking the reliance off of our post work, particularly in areas where we have a lot of resistant or highly tolerant weeds spectrums to our post materials that tend to contain glyphosate, glufosinate, some of the dicambas and 2,4-Ds as well, where that dependence upon those post products, we're starting to see more and more tolerance to those applications and not getting the weed control we need. So if we can control the populations up front, or at least reduce them, it then becomes a numbers game. We can do a better job with our post application, plus the fact that we get a little wider window. So a couple of ways that we can do that. Number one is we want to make sure that we're making the right applications with our pre-emerge by following the label instructions, whether it's rates, volumes, timing, incorporation. How do we manage any of the extra residue, the crop residue that's there? We want to make sure that we understand the best part that we can do with our pre-emerge materials like these here on top to get the best efficacy out of it. One of the things that West Central can bring to you is we bring a soil deposition aid like Saltrate, and the fact that we can put that in our product with our pre-emerge, and we can do a lot of things with Saltrate to help make sure that we get our pre-emerge materials down to the soil, that they do a good job of staying in that reed zone, that weed germination zone, that couple of 2-3 inches, and it depends upon that spectrum of weeds that you have as to how deep those seeds germinate from. But we want to try to keep it in that 2 to 3 inch zone, from 1 to about no more than about 3 inches, because that's where those seeds are going to germinate. The other thing too is that we want to be able to protect that spray. Number one, we want to keep it all in the field. A product like Saltrate can make sure that that material stays in the field from a drift standpoint, creates the right size droplets for coverage, that it's protected and slows down the evaporation part of the material as we get into some windier days, lower humidities when we're doing some of our pre-emerge work. Saltrate can help with those things. The other thing that Saltrate really brings to the game is the fact that we can get adsorption to the soil by having the chemistry absorb to the outside of those soil particles. As those weed seeds come through, they're able to pick that material up, and they start taking that material either in the shoot or as a root inhibitor. And if that material's on the outside of that soil in that germination zone, we can do a really nice job of trying to maintain and get good control in that 90% plus like we should from a pre-emerge material. So if we can pull all of those things together by following the right application instructions with the material, get the right rates, get the volumes up, use the right tips, get the good coverage, try to keep it in the field, add in a product like Saltrate from West Central, and the fact that we can help with some of that soil adsorption, we can slow down that evaporation, we can keep the drift down, keep it on target, help get down through some of this residue and get it to the soil to allow the chemistry to do its thing. Then we have a nice opportunity to be able to do what we have to do with our post applications and keep a nice clean crop.